Some people leave footprints in your heart, warm impressions that linger like the afterglow of a meaningful connection. Sigma males, however, don't leave footprints. They leave question marks, cryptic imprints that burrow into your subconscious and rewrite your emotional code. Their presence isn't felt in the open, it's sensed in the static between actions, in the silence where most people rush to fill the void with words. Have you ever experienced it? A near-invisible flicker on your timeline, no likes, no comments, no digital breadcrumbs, just the faintest disturbance in the algorithm, like a shadow passing through a locked room. Then, the slow unraveling begins. Your confidence, once steady, now wavers. Your thoughts loop endlessly. Why were they here? What did they see? Was it intentional? Congratulations. You've been sigma'd. This isn't the usual social media dance, the performative likes, the strategic replies, the curated engagement. No, this is something far more unsettling. It wasn't a conversation. It wasn't even a double tap on your carefully staged pet photo. It was a ghost visit, a silent audit, a digital drive-by where the only evidence of their presence is the psychological debris left behind. One moment they're there, the next, poof, vanished like a covert operative scrubbed from a classified file. Here's the brutal truth. A 2023 social psychology study revealed that passive observation, someone viewing your profile without interacting, triggers deeper emotional distress than outright ghosting. Why? Because ambiguity is a slow-acting neurotoxin. When someone ghosts, at least there's closure in the rejection. But when a Sigma male drifts through your digital space without a trace, your brain, hardwired for pattern recognition, short-circuits. It's not the absence of contact that stings, it's the absence of meaning. And no one weaponizes ambiguity like a Sigma male. He doesn't chase. He doesn't explain. He doesn't linger long enough to give your ego the validation it craves. He simply observes, detached, inscrutable, then evaporates, leaving your mind to spin elaborate theories in his wake. If you've ever found yourself staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., dissecting a 2-second profile view like it's the Zapruder film, you're not paranoid. You're not overreacting. You've been psychologically ambushed. Because here's the thing, he didn't just visit your timeline. He trespassed into your head. Now, against your will, you're embroiled in a one-sided mind game with a man who likely meditates in dark mode and considers emotional transparency a form of weakness. This isn't about attraction. This isn't about some juvenile crush. This is psychological warfare, a silent, high-stakes battle where the only casualty is your peace of mind. So why does this happen? Why does a single, meaningless interaction, or lack thereof, from a Sigma male dismantle your self-assurance so completely? Because in an era of constant noise, of thirst traps, performative vulnerability, and curated authenticity, his silence isn't just absence. It's a statement. It's a refusal to play the game. And that, more than any like or comment, forces you to question everything, your online persona, your social currency, your very worth in the invisible hierarchy of digital attention. Buckle up. We're about to dissect the Sigma male's psychological playbook, why he operates this way, how he hijacks your neural pathways without uttering a word, and what his eerie, detached presence reveals about the darker undercurrents of modern connection. It's about to get weird. Number 1, the digital audit, how your silence became the ultimate power move. Most people scroll through social media passively, consuming content like background noise. But your approach was different, more deliberate, more analytical. You weren't just seeing their profile. You were assessing it with the detached precision of a psychologist reviewing a case study. This wasn't idle browsing. This was a forensic examination. You noted the patterns they didn't even realize they'd established. The recycled motivational quotes masking deep-seated insecurity. The carefully angled selfies that pretended to be casual but required 30 takes. The performative vulnerability, emotional posts designed to bait reassurance rather than share authentically. Where others might have double-tapped out of politeness or left a generic comment, you simply observed, and that observation carried more weight than any interaction could. Because while likes and comments are transactional, I acknowledge you, you acknowledge me, your silent audit implied something far more unsettling: judgment. The aftermath of your visit plays out like a psychological thriller. The panic phase, they review their entire profile through your imagined gaze, suddenly seeing their content as you might have, and cringing at what they find. The editing spree, old posts get deleted. Captions are rewritten. The fitness progress shirtless pics are archived. The paranoia, they start questioning whether every future post will meet your invisible standards, turning you into a permanent mental auditor. This is the unique power of the Sigma male's approach. By refusing to engage, you didn't just deny them validation, you forced them to self-assess. Your silence wasn't indifference, it was a mirror reflecting back everything they'd been trying to hide. And in that moment of uncomfortable clarity, your absence became more influential than anyone's presence could ever be. The genius of this tactic? It's completely deniable. You never said a critical word. You never expressed disapproval. You simply looked, and in doing so, became the most powerful critic they'd never actually met. Number 2, the psychology of ambiguity, why they fell for your silence, not you. Human beings are pattern-seeking creatures. We crave resolution, closure, and clear narratives, especially when it comes to social interactions. This is precisely why the Sigma male's ambiguous behavior is so psychologically destabilizing. When you didn't flirt, didn't chase, and didn't provide the expected social cues, you didn't just withhold attention, you created a vacuum where their imagination could run wild. Unlike typical romantic or social dynamics where interest is demonstrated through engagement, likes, comments, DMs, your approach was fundamentally different. You offered no story, no script, no predictable sequence of events. Instead, you presented a blank page, and in that emptiness, their mind began writing entire chapters about who you are and what your silence meant. This phenomenon is rooted in what psychologists call narrative bias, the human tendency to create coherent stories even when information is incomplete. Your brief, unexplained appearance in their digital space, just a flicker of a notification, a name they hadn't expected to see, wasn't just passive scrolling. It was an event precisely because it defied expectations. In a world where everyone is broadcasting, performing, and begging for attention, your quiet indifference stood out like a single unread message in bold font. The absence of your engagement wasn't just noticeable, it was loud. This triggers a cascade of psychological effects. The Zeigarnik effect, the brain remembers unfinished or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. Your unexplained visit becomes a mental loop they can't close. Confirmation bias, they start scanning their own content, searching for clues about what might have drawn your attention, or worse, what might have repelled it. Projection, with no real information about you, they project their own insecurities and desires onto your blank slate, essentially falling for a version of you that exists only in their imagination. The cruel irony? The less you cared, the more power you wielded. By the time they realized they were addicted to the mystery rather than the person, it was too late. You'd already become a ghost story they couldn't stop retelling. Number 3, you're the digital version of a dream they can't remember. You're not a memory, they don't even know you well enough for that. You're something far more elusive, a flicker in the back of their mind, like the lingering sensation of an important dream that dissolves the harder they try to recall it. You didn't give them substance. You gave them sensation. You appeared briefly, stirred something primal they can't name, then disappeared without leaving a single concrete moment to grasp. And this is precisely why you've taken root in their psyche. They don't remember what your profile said, they remember how it felt. The way your energy pressed against their screen. That low-key static electricity humming in the air when someone's presence is different. It's as if you blinked into existence just long enough to make their entire reality glitch. Now they're hooked on trying to recreate a sensation they never fully understood. They'll comb through their browser history, stalk their own notifications, searching for proof you were ever there, because part of them wonders if they imagined you entirely. That's your effect. You were so subtle, so indifferent, so unexpected, they're not even sure you were real. But their nervous system knows better. It remembers that inexplicable pull, that quiet hum of significance, like they briefly brushed against something, or someone, that didn't belong to their ordinary world. You gave them the absence of clarity wrapped in the illusion of meaning. Now you live rent-free in their mental backlog, surfacing as equal parts confusion, fascination, and frustration. They don't remember what you said. You didn't say anything. But somehow, you said everything. You're not unforgettable because they knew you. You're unforgettable because they never got the chance to. Number 4, you turned their algorithm into a haunted house. You didn't just scroll through their timeline, you infected it. A single visit from you, and suddenly their algorithm transformed from predictable to paranoid. Now, every time they open their app, it feels like you're lurking in the shadows of their For You page. The content that surfaces feels unervingly personal, quotes about detachment, stoic masculinity, mysterious men, emotionally unavailable archetypes. They swear their phone is trying to decode your vibe. You didn't like a single post, yet your silent presence corrupted their feed like a ghost rewiring the walls of a digital labyrinth. What was once a stream of dopamine hits now delivers nothing but digital jump scares. Each scroll feels like another reminder of the enigma who appeared like a glitch in their system, only to vanish without a trace. But this isn't just about the algorithm. You broke the fourth wall of their online identity. With nothing more than a profile view, you forced them to see their carefully curated life through the lens of your silent judgment. Now, even in your absence, they feel exposed, as if you're perpetually watching but never present, observing but forever out of reach. They've become hyper-aware of everything they post. Would he think this is lame? Was this too much? Does this align with his unspoken standards? You never criticized them. You never had to. Your energy whispered, "This isn't it," and that quiet implication was louder than any direct insult could ever be. The wildest part? You didn't orchestrate this. You didn't strategize it. All you did was show up once. Yet that single visit didn't just haunt their feed, it permanently altered how they view their own digital existence. And once that shift happens, there's no going back. Number 5, the unwitting villain, how your indifference spawned their soft boy era. The most absurd part? You didn't do anything. You didn't break their heart. You didn't lead them on. You didn't make a single promise, explicit or implied. All you did was exist, briefly and quietly, before vanishing back into the digital ether. And yet, in their mind, you've become the catalyst for their entire emotional unraveling. Suddenly, their feed is a graveyard of blurry sunset pics and melancholic quotes. Some people just use you and disappear. Protect your energy. Real ones don't walk away. The subtext is obvious. They've cast you as the villain in their self-created tragedy, the heartless specter who gutted them, despite the fact that you never even spoke. What really happened? You visited their profile once. You blinked. You scrolled. You left. That's it. And yet, in under 72 hours, they've gone from gym selfies and fake deep captions to full-blown "my soul is tired" existentialism. The funniest part? They think it's subtle. They genuinely believe slapping a black and white filter on a post about letting go disguises the fact that they're spiraling. But everyone sees it. With nothing more than a breadcrumb of attention, if you can even call it that, you've turned their entire aesthetic into a Tumblr relapse circa 2014. Your silence didn't just sting, it inspired. It sent them digging through their archives of sadness, repurposing old wounds to rationalize why your indifference hurts so much. They're acting like they've survived a heartbreak when all they've survived is your lack of reaction, and deep down, they know it. That's what makes it worse. You didn't try to hurt them. You didn't have to. The mere fact that you could destroy their ego without lifting a finger? That's the real injury. Now, you're more than just a ghost they can't forget. You're the unnamed antagonist in their soft boy origin story, and they'll milk this role for every dramatic post, every vague tweet, every "I'm not angry, just disappointed" Instagram story it's worth. Congratulations. You didn't just pass through their life. You became the entire plot. Number 6, the unreachable frequency, why they can't bring themselves to DM you. There's a fundamental difference between existing in someone's feed and existing in their psyche. You don't occupy the same digital space as everyone else, you float above it, untethered from the desperate need for validation that defines modern online interaction. They want to message you, but something in their subconscious stops them. It's not that you're unapproachable in the traditional sense, it's that you don't operate on the same wavelength as the rest of their contacts. You don't exist as a person waiting for conversation. You exist as an idea, a signal cutting through the noise, a frequency just outside their emotional range. While others are buried in the feed, replying to polls and spamming heart reacts, you hover at the periphery, fully aware of the game but refusing to play. This aura of detachment paralyzes them. Their thumb hovers over the message button like it's a forbidden door, not because you've ever been rude or dismissive, but because you radiate an unspoken truth: you weren't designed to be reached. You didn't give off "talk to me" energy. You gave off "observe me and question your entire existence" energy. Cool. Collected. Impenetrable. The distance between you and them isn't physical, it's spiritual. Reaching out to you feels like whispering into a storm or trying to tame a wolf with small talk. They'll scan your posts, dissect your bio, search for even the smallest crack in your armor, some sign that says, "It's okay, come closer." But there's nothing. Because you're not like the others. You're not baiting engagement, thirst trapping, or fishing for compliments. You're just there, solid and self-contained, a monument to emotional sovereignty. And that's the cruel irony: you appeared in their world, but you never truly entered it. Now they're stuck in limbo, caught between the magnetic pull of your presence and the crushing reality that you'll always remain just out of reach. They could DM you, technically, nothing's stopping them. But you've made it spiritually impossible. You're not a person to be messaged, you're a concept to be turning over in their mind. In an era of oversharing and hyper-availability, your distance is intoxicating. And worst of all? It's impossible to replicate. Number 7, the main character who wasn't. They thought they were the main character, until you arrived. They were out here believing they were the star of the show, posting curated selfies, sharing half-deep quotes, talking like the world was watching. Every filter, every caption, every thirst trap was designed to scream main character energy. Then you showed up, calm, detached, unbothered. You gave them one glance, maybe a story view, maybe a scroll through their highlights, and kept it moving. Just like that, the entire storyline shifted. Suddenly, they weren't the hero anymore. They were the side character, the NPC, the one with a two-line script and a plot they no longer controlled. You didn't say anything, you didn't need to. Your presence rewrote the script. You walked in like a subplot with better lighting, sharper dialogue, and a quiet aura that didn't beg for attention, it commanded it. You didn't play their game, you didn't chase their vibe. You left them standing in the background of their own story, wondering how you managed to make their world feel small with just one visit. Now, they're obsessed. They're trying to stitch themselves into your storyline like it's a survival tactic, changing their content, switching their tone, posting things they think you'd resonate with. It's not for the algorithm anymore, it's for you. They're hoping you'll circle back, drop a like, view something again, notice them. Because without even meaning to, you flipped the script. You became the character with depth, mystery, gravity, the one who says less but means more. They're still the one posting, but now it feels like they're performing for a ghost. You turned their confident narrative into an audition for relevance. They thought they were the lead until your silence made it clear they were just passing through your story. Now, they can't stop rewriting the scenes, hoping for a comeback cameo that probably isn't coming. Number 8, the silent dismissal. You gave them a taste of being irrelevant. You didn't block them, you didn't drag them, and you didn't even acknowledge them, you just moved on, quietly and smoothly. That's what wrecked them. You didn't just scroll, you scrolled through them like they weren't even part of the scenery. For someone who's used to feeding off likes, comments, and constant interaction, that kind of silent dismissal hit harder than any insult could. You didn't give them drama, you gave them insignificance, and that's a wound with no bandage. You gave them a microscopic taste of what it feels like to be invisible, to not be the center, to be bypassed, not because they did something wrong, but because they didn't even register as worth your attention. You made irrelevance feel personal, and that's what did the damage. Most people can handle hate, they can even handle being ghosted. But being overlooked like they don't exist? That shatters something inside. Now, they're chasing your validation like it's some rare drug, one look from you, one like, one acknowledgement, and they'd breathe again. But you? You're out here existing like their entire presence never even flickered on your radar. That kind of cold detachment makes you unforgettable. They've built their whole digital identity to be noticed, praised, and seen, and you, without a single word, made them question whether any of it even matters. You cracked their ego in silence, no confrontation, no rejection, just pure, high-grade disregard. Now, they're spiraling, not because they miss you, but because they can't stand how irrelevant you made them feel. You touched a nerve that's usually protected by filters and fake confidence. You made them feel like a background extra in a movie they thought they were starring in. And the worst part? You didn't even try. Number 9, the glitch. You're a crack in the code of their social simulation. In a world where everyone follows the rules, like, comment, ghost, repeat, you broke the algorithm. You didn't engage. You didn't vanish. You existed outside the binary, a disruption that defied categorization. Most people are predictable, they either perform for attention or disappear into the void. But you? You lingered in the static between, a glitch the system couldn't process. Now their mind races in futile loops, running diagnostics on your every move. Why no trace? Why no reaction? Digital logic says your visit should have left something, a like, a view, a breadcrumb of intent. But you left only silence, and that silence echoes louder than any notification. They scour your profile for hidden meaning, but the harder they search, the clearer it becomes, you're an anomaly. You've shattered their illusion of control. This isn't just about you, it's about the unsettling truth that some variables can't be solved. They're stuck replaying your visit like a corrupted file, obsessing over the gaps in the data. The simulation was never flawless, but you? You're the flaw they can't patch. And that's what etches you into their memory, not because you mattered, but because you proved that in their perfectly curated world, some things, like you, remain gloriously, maddeningly unknowable. Number 10, the omen. Your visit wasn't just a scroll through their feed, it felt like a cosmic event. When you appeared, it wasn't mere visibility, it was an unsettling presence, as if you'd stepped into their world for reasons they couldn't decipher. This wasn't casual interaction, it was an omen wrapped in digital silence, like the universe had paused just long enough to murmur, "Pay attention." For a heartbeat, they wondered if they'd missed something profound. Your arrival didn't beg for validation, it demanded introspection. Their pulse didn't quicken from excitement but from the eerie sense that this wasn't random. Was it a sign? A twist of fate? Or were you something more, a mystical force sent to unravel their carefully constructed reality? Flattery was too shallow a reaction. This wasn't about ego, it was about the unnerving weight of being observed by something they didn't understand. Your silence forced them to question, were you a harbinger of greatness, or a mirror reflecting the parts of themselves they'd neglected? The corners of their life they'd left unexamined suddenly felt exposed. And then came the spiritual unease. Were you the warning before a storm? The nudge toward change? Or proof that some forces defy control? You didn't just pass through their digital space, you left them torn between checking their horoscope, meditating, or praying for clarity. You gave them more than attention, you gave them a riddle that gnawed at their certainty. Now, they're trapped in the aftermath, replaying your visit like a prophecy they're too afraid to interpret but too haunted to ignore. Number 11, the algorithm's nemesis. You don't just break the fourth wall, you live outside it. While they're busy reverse engineering trends and A/B testing their personality, you exist like a rogue line of code that makes the entire system glitch. The algorithm can't categorize you because you're not feeding it what it wants, you're feeding it questions it can't answer. They study you like an alien artifact. Why don't you post at peak engagement hours? How are you immune to the dopamine hit of going viral? What kind of person doesn't even check their own analytics? Every scroll through your profile is a crisis of faith in their digital religion. Your existence proves there's life beyond the metrics, that someone can be seen without begging to be validated. You're the social media equivalent of the chess player who flips the board and walks away, revealing the game was never about winning, but about who designed the rules. Now they're caught in a paradox. The more they try to decode you, the more they have to confront their own participation in the charade. You've become the ghost in their machine, a reminder that every like they chased was just a breadcrumb leading them deeper into someone else's maze. The cruel irony? In trying to understand your mystery, they've accidentally begun the one journey you always intended for them, the path back to their authentic self. Number 12, the validation intervention. You performed a digital exorcism without even trying. In a world where they'd conditioned themselves to post not for joy, but for the electric jolt of a notification, where every caption was a carefully baited hook and every angle a calculated performance, you arrived as a silent disruptor. Unlike everyone else, you didn't take the bait. No likes. No comments. Not even the petty drama of a hate follow. Just presence. And in that void of expected engagement, you held up a mirror to their addiction. The realization hit like a system crash. They weren't creators, they were lab rats pressing a lever for validation pellets. You exposed the raw machinery behind their digital persona, the sleepless edits, the deleted drafts, the way their thumb hovered over the refresh button like a gambler at a slot machine. Worst of all? You made them see how cheap the prize was. When you refused to play, their entire ecosystem of attention collapsed like a stage play with no audience. Now they're left staring at their own reflection in the black mirror of their screen, asking the terrifying question, who am I when no one's watching? This wasn't just ignoring them, it was a masterclass in psychological jiu-jitsu. You used their own need for external approval as the weapon that disarmed them. The withdrawal symptoms are visceral, the itch to check analytics, the phantom buzz of non-existent notifications, the hollow feeling when they realize their authentic content was always just currency in a marketplace of eyeballs. You didn't ghost them. You gave them something far more dangerous, the gift of self-awareness. And in this attention economy, that's the most disruptive force of all. Thank you for watching.